Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my podcast, Speak on It. I am the host, Anaya, and I will be speaking on it. Last week, we talked about who I am, why I'm doing this podcast. I spoke briefly about how the culture is being deceived and misled. So I will continue to talk about that this week because that's like the bulk of what this podcast will be. Because I really do love Black people, and I really feel like Black people, we need to get it together. And nobody wants to see us get it together. So somebody has to be like, hey, come on, it's time to get on board. So I told you guys last week that I dibble-dabbled into all the New Age spirituality stuff, didn't do tarot cards, and I'm going to have to keep emphasizing that because I know there will be somebody that's like, oh, no, I didn't. Never even played with those witch games. But I used to think that I was so woke. And when I say that, I mean like I would literally tell my mom and them like, oh, they're doing this to the water and they're doing this and they're doing this and they have underground bunkers and they have this, that, and the other. But it's like all that was doing was making me crazy, y'all. When I say I was going crazy, it was to the point where I'm now emailing the chief director of this and the chief director of this, and I'm just like, why aren't y'all looking for these little kids that's going missing? Like, that's how woke I was. But I was literally like digging myself into a ditch that I was not going to be able to get myself out of. And so I realized that I was navigating a maze, right, of half-truths and mistaken spirituality for like God. And again, there's a difference. There is such a difference because you have people that, oh, I'm spiritual, and it's like you're into the universe. Like, again, I once was that. And it's like, no, do you believe in God? Do you believe in Jesus? Because that's the walk that I'm on right now. And if you're not a part of that walk and you're still believing in the universe, then come talk to me in like 2 years, you know? So I told you guys last week that this will be a podcast that's rooted in the word. So the first scripture that we are going to be tuning into is Galatians chapter 6, verse 7 and 8. And it says, do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, that one he will also reap. When I ended last week's episode, I said, oh, I can't wait to talk about next week's episode because I will be talking about they cloned Tyrone. Now, I am a deep person, right? So when this movie came out, I had a lot of people DMing me like, hey, what do you think about this movie? Like, what was your take? And again, because I'm such a deep person, I could have wrote an MLA format paper about it, but I didn't. When we look at that film, right, if you watched it, because a lot of people, this is right before they cloned Jamie Foxx. So I'm not going to talk about that either. But it all connects. So if you watched it, you probably laughed at some parts, or you probably was confused like most Black people. And I personally thought it was going to be one of them like crime fighting movies, but it was not that. And when I watched it, and I saw layers, right? I saw the layers of how deception has been woven into the Black community. And again, y'all probably like, here she go, y'all. But that movie wasn't fiction. Like, it was a message. It was a warning to the people. It was like, hey, they're cloning people. And yes, they're not just cloning people. And let me not even speak on that because I don't have any factual proof about that, right? But I do know that they're spiritually cloning people. And it's more of a spiritual and mental thing. My issue with that is Black people don't realize that none of this stuff that we're doing right now has ever been done. So the life that we're living right now is an experiment. This AI shit is an experiment. These technologies advancements is experiment. We are part of an experiment. It sucks to look at it like that, but that's how we have to look at it. When we talk about this film, right, again, they were cloning people, yes, but not just physically. Again, this was something they were mentally cloning people as well. They were experimenting through food. And again, we could talk about that whole Popeye's little situation another time, but that was one of the main things that made me say, why? What the hell are they putting in this chicken? Why are people fighting? This is a Boondocks episode. And then the music. I don't know if y'all remember that scene inside of the club, but they was listening to music and the music was mind-controlling music. And again, I hate to use the word mind control because I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but that's exactly what it is. And I can insert links to the documents that I would be referring to if I do dabble down that rabbit hole, but that's not what this podcast is about. Moving forward, right, we could look at, specifically last week I talked about Sexyy Red and how Black women are being influenced into hoe culture. And in addition to us being influenced by hoe culture, it's being used as a tool of empowerment. And so the same as perms and stuff like that, right? We have beautiful hair, but because we've been deceived and told that our hair isn't good enough, we use these different tools, these man-made tools, to change it. And so we talk about the hair products that was being used inside of They Cloned Tyrone. And we look at all these different, and I can't talk because I got some bundles in my head right now, so I'm not here to judge, but I'm just looking at how deep deception is, right? They've convinced us that our hair isn't good enough, so hey, go put that perm on it that's going to give you cancer, ovarian cancer, in about 15, 20 years. But we knew that though. We knew it because it was by design. Go put that S-curl on your head that we know got carcinogens in it and it causes cancer. We knew that though because, again, it's by design. However, Black people do not look at stuff like that. We look at stuff like, oh, it's just a coincidence. After too many coincidences, it's a pattern. And Black people fail to recognize the pattern because they're so content with being deceived. And like I said last podcast, what used to be perceived as evil is now good, right? So we look at our neighborhoods and we're constantly surrounded by liquor stores. Literally on every corner, there's a liquor store. We have destructive, and then we don't even own the liquor stores. We don't own them. We don't own them. However, we allow these people to come in and deceive us and say, hey, we're providing you a place so you can come get some food, so you can come get some liquor, so you can continue to destroy your community. Because again, Black people are living in a food desert, but that's another topic for another day. However, it's being told to us that you guys don't live in a food desert. We're being deceived by McDonald's and Burger Kings and Wendy's and all these different fast foods that's slowly killing us. But we're perceiving them to be good food. No, it's death. We have to understand or overstand that the reality that we live is because what we consume. So if you're a person and you're listening to, again, destructive music and you're watching shows that glorify trauma like Baddies, why are we watching Baddies? Like, I was a kid when Bad Girls Club originally came out, right? I was never deceived by that show. I was never motivated to go out and act like that. However, we now have a bunch of grown-ass women on TV embarrassing themselves for the sake of what? What are you gaining? It's like, what's that quote? Gain the whole world and lose your soul? That's exactly what y'all are, losing your soul. And it's okay because it's coming in the form of money. It's coming in the form of, oh, I'm getting these Birkin bags. It's like, you're selling your soul for a Birkin? You're selling your soul for a Berkey-erky? That's crazy to me. But what's even more crazy, right, is the fact that the people in the movie didn't even know that they were being controlled, right? They didn't even know how deceived they were. So what we seen in that movie was the devil trying to imitate the culture with a different type of light, right? So in the movie, we seen that deception dressed up as a culture. It looked like the tradition. It looked like fun. However, it was an enemy showing up in familiar clothing. They didn't clone Tyrone because they needed another man. They cloned Tyrone because they needed a model. They needed a prototype. They needed somebody that they could use to push the further agenda. And that's what we're seeing in real life. Prototypes are being built and sold to our people. So yeah, we're going to have a few Charleston Whites out here. We're going to have a few Offsets. We're going to have a few celebrities that's out here pushing that same agenda because somebody has to manipulate the people. And in order to manipulate the people, you have to do it from within. You can't really manipulate the people with a white person as a mascot. No, you got to have it done from within. So Jay-Z got a little lyric where he say, No civilization is conquered from the outside until it destroys itself from within, right? So Black people, we are the ones that's allowing the culture to be broken. We're allowing it in the name of, oh, it's advancement, but there's nothing, we're not advancing. We're not advancing. I don't think y'all realize that we are actually being, again, led further away from God and closer to the devil. The loudest voices on our timelines is destruction. There's nobody that's pushing positivity within the culture. There's nobody glorifying, oh, he's a doctor. The only people that you see glorifying doctors is those little Black millionaire pages, the pages that want to see Black excellence. The culture do not want to see Black excellence. And the sad part about it is, just like in a movie, some of us are too distracted to even notice the pattern. Some of us are, again, content with being deceived, that it's okay, well, my granny was deceived, so I'm going to just keep it up. Like, I can't change the world. And it's like that one quote, right, by Biggie Smalls, you can't change the world unless you change ourselves, or something, whatever he said, right? That's real. It's like, and they cloned Tyrone was a reflection, and it was a mirror that was supposed to get held up to our culture, and the question was supposed to be, do we recognize ourselves? Are we already the clone? Which then brings me to the next verse, right? And this is Matthew 24, verse 4-5. And it says, Jesus answered, watch out that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, claiming I am the Messiah, and will deceive many. So we have to realize, in that movie they cloned Tyrone, the characters are caught in a world where everything is a facade. Nothing is real. People are being cloned. They're being controlled and manipulated without even knowing. And we have to realize there's a whole system that's working behind the scenes and that's designing for this community to stay asleep, whether that's physically or spiritually or mentally, right? And that's exactly what Jesus was warning us about in Matthew 24. Deception that looks like the truth, systems that sound like salvation but are actually tools of control. So when Jesus says, watch out, that's like the wake-up call. That's like the attention grabber. And when he says many will come claiming to be the answer, that's the false revival. In the movie, the clones are walking around, talking and living, but they're not actually alive. They're functioning under someone else's programming. So it makes me realize that we need to start questioning, what programming are we under? Who is controlling our thought process? Who is controlling the beliefs that we have? And once you figure that out, I think life will become a lot easier. Because again, Black people are super controlled, and we are so naive to the forces that's behind the controlling. And it's like, I don't think, again, that's something that we look at. I don't think that's something that we care about. Because we often forget that we are being controlled, and it's unknowingly and then it's knowingly. If you're conscious of the stuff that they're doing to our community and you're content with it, then you're one of those people that should have got thrown off the boat. Because I don't know. It's something about that. It's like, and I get that, oh, well, it's been going on for years and generations, but it's like, we're a generation where it's like, we got hella shit, bro. Like, not like that. Like, we're smarter than the past generations. I think wisdom-wise, we're dumb as fuck. But I think when it comes to technology and stuff like that, if we can get together on one accord, we should be able to get us back up, right? Just like in that movie, music was a tool. And I spoke about this briefly last week. Music is a tool. Music is a deception tool. It is a mind control tool. And it's powerful. And it's a vessel for messages, emotions, and ideologies. Because when I listen, I'm not going to lie. So when I was listening to the group Oshun, I love them so much. But when I was listening to them, I was very much like, okay, my chakras got to get in tuned and all these different things. I think about when I listen to like violent music, or when I think about hypersexual music, it makes me want to, like, it puts me in a mood that's like, hey, let me go kill a few niggas. Like, it put me in that mindset. And it's like, that goes to show how music is a tool to deceive us. And if you're a person that only, again, listens to that specific type of music, then that's going to be your reality. But what happens to us when the melodies that we love carry messages that contradict our values? The sad part about it is sometimes they don't even contradict our values. It contradicts mine, because here I am, a person, like, I want to go out to the clubs and stuff, but I don't know club music. I don't know club music. I don't know club culture, because it contradicts my values. I want to be at home with my husband and our 10 kids tending to the garden. There's no music out there for me. There's no places out there for me. So I have to realize that, hey, what's being sold to Black women right now is a deception. It's life being lit, or it's us being outside, but it's wrapped up like, oh, we're having fun. It's like, no, you're being deceived. You're not following the word. And I used this scripture last week, right? And it's Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23. Above else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And it makes me think about deception and how we easily, again, are decepted, because that's the word, right? That's the topic. That's going to be the topic, is how the Black community is being deceived. So leaving the topic of they clone Tyrone and how the music is a tool for messages, we now have to go into how the Black community, again, misuse spiritual language. On God, love, G-O-D. And the sad part about it is I use G-O-D so heavy because I am from San Francisco, and that's what we say. However, in our generation, we use on God to basically like back up a lie, or to prove we innocent. And the crazy part about it is the stuff that's followed by on God, the words or sentences that's usually followed after using on God, is often actions that dishonor God. So you got niggas that be like, excuse my language, I am trying, y'all. You got niggas who be like, on God, I'm finna go slide on them niggas. On God, I'm finna go kill another brother. What? That doesn't make sense. You're on God? On God, you finna go kill somebody? That just seems like a contradictory statement. You see the deception in that? It's like we're putting God's name on sinful, selfish, and shallow stuff. We're using God to validate the devil's agenda. So let's stick with that thought right there for a second. We are using God because we know that there's power in that name, right? And again, as Black people, we grew up with God. We know God. We've just strayed away from God. But we're using God to validate the devil's agenda. So why y'all don't say on the devil, bro? Because the actions that y'all are committing are the devil's work. It's not of God. So at some point, we gotta stop getting deceived by even the words we use. And last episode, I kept saying we're getting closer to the devil and further away from God. And here's how this deception works. We think we're spiritual because we use religious language. Like I spoke about me dabbling into crystals and sage and stuff. I felt like because I knew God and I knew of him that I was walking in the right light. However, that wasn't the correct light. In reality, we're being drawn into a deeper false religion, idolatry, and spiritual confusion. And so I want to move on to another scripture. 2 Corinthians 11:14, and I spoke about this scripture last week. Even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. The enemy do not care if you say on God, as long as you don't obey him. As long as you're using God to push the devil's agenda, you're good, bro. You're good. The devil do not care if you say on God, as long as you're not walking with God. As long as you're saying own God, but the actions contradict God, you're good. And that's the trick. That's the deception. Again, the theme here is deception and how the Black community is being deceived. The language that we use sound holy, however, the actions and the lifestyle is hollow. And in the Black community, like I said in the beginning, faith has always been foundational. Our ancestors called on the name of God during slavery, during segregation, and also while they were suffering. And they meant it. They meant it because they didn't have nothing else to look forward to. All they could cling on to is that name Jesus, right? Something about the name Jesus. It's something about that name. And I feel like our generation is content with, again, the watered down version of Jesus. And I feel like that's the dangerous part, is that our generation has walked further away from Jesus than what our ancestors and our grandmothers did. Our grandmothers clinged on to that name. And now we casually throwing around the phrases on God and God with no fear. Like, we do not care. And we think like we being real, like, oh nah, God knows my heart. But it's like, no, we're being deceived. And deception isn't just happening in our language. It's literally everywhere. Which, again, brings me back to my main point. The movie They Cloned Tyrone. The movie wasn't just entertainment. It was about exposure. It was about, again, predictive programming, right? It's about the Hegelian dialectic. It's about, let's normalize this so when it does happen, it's not really a big deal. And the thing is, what you saw in that film, people unknowingly living in a manufactured world, is exactly what's happening to us. But because we're in it, we don't know. And it's like that quote that say, when you in shit, you don't smell it. That's exactly what the Black community is in. We are in shit, and we don't even know that we're in shit because we've been in shit for so long that we're content with it. And I don't think that that's okay, because in the movie, they cloned Black people not just to copy them, but to control them. They controlled what they ate. They controlled what they heard. They controlled how they thought, how they acted, and what they believed, how they believed it. And the scary part about it is nobody questioned it because it all felt normal. It all felt like, again, it was by design. And bringing it back to us as a Black community, we are being controlled when it comes to what we eat. Again, back to the point that I made earlier. In our communities, all we see is fast foods. We don't got whole foods over here. We don't have raw foods over here. We have the foods that they know is going to continue to give us high blood pressure, diabetes, heart failure, COPD, all these different things that they know, because again, it's by design. And again, it goes back to the music that we consume. Everything that is engineered supposedly for us is to keep us under control. That's exactly what deception is, and that's exactly what deception feels like. Deception doesn't always come in the form of evil, right? It comes in the form of familiarity, right? Because just like in that movie, familiar doesn't mean free. And it's like, again, like I said, a civilization can only destroy themselves from within first. You got to be weak from the inside in order for somebody on the outside to come and destroy you. And again, us in the Black community, we are mentally, physically, and spiritually weak, right? And I want to wrap this up because at this point I think I'm yapping. So when we speak about They Cloned Tyrone, we're not just talking about fiction. We're talking about a spiritual reality. We're talking about a system that does not want your body. It wants your mind, your language, and your beliefs. And ultimately, your soul, right? Because this is what the music industry is all about. We're going to talk about that later. And many of us, without even realizing it, have been cloned spiritually. We're living lives that were programmed by trauma, by the culture, and by the media. So I want to close with a scripture. If we could turn to Romans 13:11. This is all the more urgent for you to know how late it is. Time is running out. Wake up, for our salvation is nearer now than when we first believed. The night is almost gone, and the salvation will soon be here. So remove your dark deeds like dirty clothes and put on your shining armor of righteous living. So until next time, you guys, thank you for tuning in to Speak on It. I am the host, Anaya, and I will see you guys next week.